The wind knifed across the wall as if it wished to cleave the world in two. Snow swirled in muffled spirals below the ramparts, finding each crevice of black stone and every scar in the weather-shorn timbers of Castle Black. Jon Snow stood alone upon the highest walkway, the hood of his wool cloak drawn low, shadowing gray eyes that had long since forgotten warmth. Somewhere unseen, a horn gave a single forlorn note. No alarm this night, only the watch's age-old signal marking the change of the hour. Jon counted the cadence, listening to the hush that followed, and tried to lose himself in the routine of duty. Duty, he told himself, is the shield that guards the realms of men. Yet beneath the familiar words lurked a throb of unease. Faint torchlight glimmered across the courtyard where Stannis Baratheon's crimson and gold banners drooped in the bitter cold. Southern knights huddled near braziers, their steel plate already dulled by frost. They looked out of place here, like gaudy pieces on the wrong game board, bewildered by rules they had never learned. But their king had led them north despite the snows, and they would follow him unto the ends of the world, or to ruin. Jon's gloved fingers curled round the icicled railing. In Stannis he had glimpsed a stern resolve akin to Lord Eddard's, though wrought of harder metal and harsher flame. The king's arrival had driven back the wildling host, but it had also brought strange portents. A red priestess whose eyes gleamed like embers, whispered talk of ancient gods, and, above all, a new war for a distant throne. The crunch of boots on packed snow broke the wall's lonely quiet. Jon turned to see Samwell Tarly climbing the wooden stairs, cheeks aflame from the climb. Sam paused at the top, chest heaving, and made a clumsy bow. "Maester Aemon sent me," he said, voice quavering as his breath fogged the night. The king, he's asked to speak with you, privately." Jon's heart thudded. He had avoided Stannis these past days, pleading duties, patrols, any pretext that left him beyond the king's notice, and the Red Woman's scarlet gaze. But Stannis Baratheon was not a man easily denied. Did he say why? Sam shook his head. Only that it could not wait. He waits in the king's tower. The king's tower. Jon almost laughed. The irony tasted of iron on his tongue. Very well. He nodded to Sam and descended the stair. The torches stationed along the stairwell sputtered, flaring whenever the wind's fingers reached through the gaps in the boards. Jon's shadow danced, long and solemn, on pale stone. Below, within the lantern-lit passage that linked the wall to the courtyard, he passed knights, watch-brothers, and kneeling squires polishing shields emblazoned with the fiery heart of the Lord of Light. A hush followed him, each man guessing at the reason the king beyond snow, as some had begun to whisper, had been summoned. The double doors of the tower stood unguarded. Jon eased one door inward. Hinges groaned like a waking giant. Within, firelight flickered across the drafty chamber. Stannis Baratheon waited alone beside a crude map table, gloved hands clasped over a railing of dark oak, armor as stark as the night encased him. Black breastplate, gorget, pauldrons etched with the crowned stag, and now, a pale dusting of snow crystallized upon every edge. Only the king's eyes seemed alive, bright with a disciplined flame. "Lord Commander Snow." Stannis spoke without preamble, though Jon was not yet Lord Commander by any law but rumor. "Close the door." Jon obeyed, and the room grew still outside the hearth's crackle. Heat licked his cold-seared cheeks as he approached. "You wish to speak with me, Your Grace?" Jon said, the title sitting awkward on his tongue. "I did." Stannis touched a finger to the map's battered coastlines. The parchment bore fresh ink strokes. Troop positions, supply routes, the dotted lines of imagined sieges. "You know why I marched north. The realm bleeds while the bastard of Bolton sews flayed skin upon flayed skin. The boy Tommen sits the Iron Throne in name, but I am the true king by law, Robert's rightful heir." Jon inclined his head. These were arguments he had heard, from Davos Seaworth's earnest lips, from Melisandre's smoky prophecies, from the acerbic mutters of southern lords shivering in northern cold. Stannis studied him a moment. Yet what is law to men's hearts? They flock to lions, to roses, to vipers and krakens. The realm yawns wide, ready to swallow itself. I have no time to teach them justice. I must give them hope. He stepped closer, boots thudding softly on the flagstones. Tell me true, who rules men better, the one they fear or the one they love? Jon's reply caught in his throat. He had not thought Stannis capable of such a question, nor of the vulnerability it betrayed. Still, he answered with stark plainness. Both fail if they do not earn respect. A thin smile ghosted Stannis's narrow lips. Just so. The watchmen follow you. Stark blood, wolf's honor, yet no claim or hunger for crowns. I have seen how the men of the gift heed your voice. Even wildlings heed it. Jon felt the heat redden his face. They follow the Night's Watch. They follow you, Stannis repeated, sharper. Then his tone softened, like steel cooling in water. Hear me. I will take the throne, or the realm quits breathing. But I intend to place its weight upon stronger shoulders than mine. Jon frowned. I don't. I offer you the Iron Throne, Jon Snow. Stannis said the words with the blunt certainty of a decree. Take my crown, and I shall serve as your hand in the fight to come. Silence engulfed the chamber, broken only by the fire's disquiet. Jon thought he must have misheard. Your Grace, that is no jest, I hope.
I do not jest.
A king has no time for jests. Stannis lifted a gauntlet hand, palm outward. Before, I asked you to bend the knee, but I have watched you wield command, and I have watched the realm's lords clutch their purses and their pride, each content to squabble for scraps while winter sharpens its teeth. You, bastard though they name you, are a Stark before their eyes and a man unmarred by the South's poisons. The North would follow you for your father's sake, the Riverlands for the sake of your mother's kin. As for the Stormlands, I will ensure they remember Robert's last wish, that Ned Stark guide the realm until his son came of age. You are Ned Stark's true son in all but name. Jon's pulse hammered. I vowed my life to the Night's Watch. I have no name but Snow, no lordship, no birthright. Stannis reached into his cloak and drew forth a scroll, sealed with golden wax. Your vow need chain you only while you wear black. I will pardon your oath, grant you the name Stark, and name you king. The Starks built the wall, boy. You would not betray it by saving the realm it guards. The words seemed to float between them, unreal. Jon felt the weight of ghosts in that room. His father standing in a godswood, Bran climbing a tower, Robb leading gray direwolves across crimson fields. All dead, though their voices rustled in his memory. The ghosts asked him whether he would abandon the Watch for a throne of swords, and whether he could bear the crown's iron burden should he choose it. He struggled to breathe. Why me? You have Shireen, heirs in your bloodline. Shireen's claim would die unborn. The lords would not follow a sickly girl child, no matter her virtue. And war is here, not in nursery rhymes. I need a figure the great houses will rally to, lest the 7 kingdoms break into 7 blood-soaked pieces. Jon recalled Maester Aemon's frail voice. A king must be a healer. A sword may quell a foe, but only mercy binds the people. Would he possess either gift if he wore a crown, or would he break beneath the weight? As my hand, Stannis pressed on, I would command the crown's armies and counsel you in matters of law. Let the lords call me regent, if they need words. But you, Jon Stark, would be the face of the realm's future. Jon's thoughts reeled. The lords south of the Neck will never accept a bastard raised to king. Then we shall show them a king greater than the sum of his name. Stannis offered the scroll. Read it. It proclaims you legitimate, son of Eddard Stark and Lady Catelyn, born in secret to shield you from Robert's wrath. A lie, but a necessary one. The realm was built on convenient falsehoods, else Ares would yet reign. Jon reached but dared not touch the parchment. You would forge a false birth for me? Would the truth serve better? Stannis asked. The true parentage whispered by the Red Woman would ignite half the realm in dragonfire and drown the other half in suspicion. Better they swallow one simple tale than choke upon wonders. Jon remembered Melisandre's eyes upon him, how they seemed to weigh him against some unseen measure of light and shadow. Did the Red Woman dance behind these words? shaping fate with fire? He looked at Stannis, at the stubborn jaw and shadowed cheekbones. The king waited, unflinching. For a heartbeat, Jon felt the wall itself tremble beneath decisions yet unmade. "Allow me one night's thought," Jon said at last. "Dawn," Stannis agreed. "And not a moment later. Every hour counts. The realm cannot linger in indecision." Jon bowed and left, the scroll still resting on the table. Behind him, Stannis stood motionless, a statue of winter-tempered iron. That same night, the wall whispered of fate. Jon sought the quiet of the old library, where forgotten ledgers and weathered raven scrolls slept in dust-piled alcoves. He found a corner untouched by the brazier's faint glow, lit a stub of tallow and unfurled parchment, quill poised, but the words would not come. To record this choice felt akin to sealing his own doom. Footsteps padded lightly between shelves. "You look as though ghostly maesters weigh your soul," came Maester Aemon's gentle rasp. Sightless eyes turned toward the sound of Jon's breath. "Might an old man offer company?" Jon rose to guide the frail maester to a chair. He poured a measure of mulled wine, the scents of clove and orange chasing some of the chill. "I have met a choice larger than I am, maester," Jon confessed. "Larger than us all, perhaps," Aemon said. "Stannis Baratheon's fire grows hotter each day, and he will forge more than swords before night's end." Jon's hand tightened round the wooden cup. "He means to put a crown on my head." The maester's blind eyes seemed to light from within. "Ah, the realm's echoes reach even the raven's eyries. Tell me your heart." Jon tried, halting. He spoke of vows, of ghosts, of the trust of brothers, of the realm's ruinous wars, of winter's teeth bared beyond the trees. He spoke of Stannis's bargain, of the false name and the hidden truth. At last he fell silent, the library's hush pressing like snow. Aemon touched Jon's wrist. "I once fled a crown," the old man murmured. "My brothers would have raised me to the dragon throne, but I chose chains instead. Duty called me to it, as you believe duty binds you now. Weary though I am, I have never regretted the path I chose, but neither did the realm cease to write my name in its histories. Escape is illusion, my lord. Each path binds us." Jon's throat tightened. "If I refuse, he will press his claim alone. If I accept, I break the vows that define me." "Perhaps your vows were meant to prepare you for a greater guardianship," Aemon said. "The wall is more than stone. It is promise, sacrifice, vigilance. Carry those with you, wherever your feet tread. The realm will still be guarded." He squeezed Jon's hand with surprising strength. "A leader is not the one who seeks the crown, but the one the crown seeks. Consider whether it has found you." Jon sat long after the maester shuffled away, candle guttering low. When at last he left the library, dawn's gray fingers already scratched at the eastern sky. The morning wind tasted of sorcery as Jon strode toward the king's tower again. Melisandre awaited him in the courtyard, ruby glimmering at her throat. Snowflakes melted against her bare shoulders as though the flames within her veins burned hotter than any hearth. "He sees a sword in the snow," she said softly, a smile flickering on red lips. "A sword of star-forged steel. It will rise in a hand both wolf and dragon, and darkness shall flee." Jon's step faltered. He met her eyes, twin coals smoldering deep. "I am no dragon," he said. "Blood speaks when tongues lie," she replied. "Soon the realm shall hear its song." Her gaze swept beyond him, toward the wall's white immensity. "Choose, Jon Snow. The dawn you bring may be the realm's last." He left her standing there, crimson robes billowing like a living flame amid the drifted snow. Inside the tower chamber, Stannis awaited beside the war map. Davos Seaworth stood at his shoulder, gloved hands folded, face somber yet hopeful. Jon shut the door behind him. "Well?" Stannis demanded, voice as sharp as drawn steel. Jon met the king's fire without flinching. "I will accept your offer, on 3 conditions." Davos lifted his brows. Stannis neither blinked nor bristled. "State them." "First," Jon said, My brothers of the Night's Watch are pardoned of all crimes past and future for standing with me against the darkness beyond the wall. Their lands and vows remain inviolate." "Done," Stannis answered, though the concession must have stung. "Second, the North governs itself, with winter towns and holdfasts subject only to a northern council chosen by its own lords. No southern lord shall rule from far away." Stannis's jaw worked. Davos murmured, "A wise gift, your grace. Hearts follow when land is honored." After a moment, the king nodded curtly. "Agreed." "Third," Jon's voice softened, "I will sit the throne only until we have turned back the true enemy. When the realm is safe, I will call a great council to choose its ruler. It may be me or another. The decision will rest with the lords and the commons." Stannis's eyes flared. "The throne is not a copper to be bartered at market." "It is a trust," Jon replied, steady. "I will not wield it without the realm's consent. Give the people a say, and they will fight for more than fear, they will fight for a future." Davos's breath misted in the cold chamber air. Mercy, justice, honor, they were Robert's boast once. The realm could do worse than remember. Stannis looked between them, rigid as carved granite. At length he dipped his head, a motion so slight Jon almost missed it. "So be it. And what of your name? I will not cast aside the truth my father raised me with, nor the truth that may yet be revealed." Jon took a breath. "Let the realm call me Jon Stark, if it must. But I will never forget that I was born snow. A king born of snow." Stannis exhaled, perhaps in grudging admiration, perhaps in resignation. "Very well, Jon Snow Stark, king of the Seven Kingdoms, until such time as the realm decides otherwise. Kneel and be crowned." Jon bent one knee before the black-armored king. Stannis drew Lightbringer from its scabbard. The sword flared bright, its rippling flames reflecting in Stannis's determined eyes. He touched the burning blade lightly to Jon's shoulders, tracing a path of foreign warmth through the winter chill. "Rise, Jon of House Stark, king in the realm of men, protector of the realm," Stannis intoned. "May your reign be the dawn that drives back night." Jon rose, heart pounding as heat spread through his limbs like the first kiss of spring. Lightbringer's glow dimmed as Stannis sheathed it. The king extended his hand. Jon clasped it, sealing the pact. A pact born of law and mercy, ambition and sacrifice, hope and fear. Outside, the sky broke into pale rose streaks, the first fragile promise of day. Ravens erupted from the rookery, cawing as though the merriment of heaven announced a change stitched into fate's tapestry. Below, brothers and knights alike gathered, eyes upturned to the tower's bulky heights. They could not yet know what had been forged in the hush of dawn, but they smelled it on the wind. A change as certain and inexorable as winter. Jon Snow stepped onto the tower balcony. The chill air ripped at his dark hair and billowed the heavy wool cloak that bore no sigil yet, and perhaps never would. Stannis Baratheon appeared beside him, his own cloak snapping crimson. Together they looked down upon the assembly. Black cloaks mingling with mailed surcoats, free folk chieftains standing shoulder to shoulder with knightly bannermen, all gathered in the courtyard of a fortress older than memory. Stannis raised a gauntlet fist. "Your king!" he called, voice echoing off the wall's colossal face. "The North remembers. Now let the realm remember." He turned to Jon. The new king stepped forward, feeling the full might of 1,000 gazes. He drew a steady breath, recalling Maester Aemon's words. "A sword may quell a foe, but only mercy binds the people." They would test him soon enough, but for this moment he would give them hope. "My lords, my brothers, my friends," Jon cried, and the courtyard fell silent as snowfall. "We stand upon the edge of a night that would swallow all. The Iron Throne has spilled more blood than 1,000 battlefields, but the true enemy cares nothing for who sits its seat. I will not ask you to fight for crowns or castles. I ask you to fight for the living. Stand with me, and we will forge a dawn bright enough to blind the darkness." A roar answered him, voices from every corner of the yard, rising like a tide against the wall. Some shouted, "Snow," others, "Stark," and still others king in the north. Yet the names mingled into one thunderous acclaim. Above, mulled wine and new-curled banners flapped. The first rays of sun lanced through scudding clouds, striking the crownless king in a blaze of pale gold. And far to the north beyond the haunted forests, icy winds carried rumors of this new dawn. In shadowed glens, things that had forgotten their own names listened with gathering malice. For the night does not yield easily and pays back each spark of hope with 100 folded blades of frost. But for the span of that fragile sunrise, Jon Snow, bastard of Winterfell, brother of the Night's Watch, king by stranger's grace, stood unbroken, and behind his dark eyes flared a resolve as ancient as the wall itself. Thus the first chapter of his unlikely reign began, not with trumpets and silk banners unfurled above a gleaming capital, but with a crown of unseen duty hammered in the iron cradle of winter. In the moons to come, ravens would carry tidings of this snow-forged monarch to every hall from Dorne's red mountains to the gray crags of Pike. Lords would weigh oaths against ambition. Queens would sharpen daggers of diplomacy. And in the hidden heart of the land, old, cold powers would rouse, drawn to the heat of change as moths to a bonfire. Yet all that lay ahead. For now, the wall's ancient stones held their breath. Beneath the newborn king's boots, the ice did not crack. Above his shadowed brow, no crown gleamed save the pale halo of morning sun. And somewhere deep within that rising light, the first seeds of a song of ice and fire stirred, awaiting the chorus yet to come. Ghost padded silently beside him as Jon descended the king's tower, the direwolf's pale fur glowing against the torchlit stone. Dawn had scarcely warmed the frost-laden air, yet already the courtyard thronged with uncertain purpose. Sworn brothers hauling barrels of salt beef into the cellars, Baratheon men-at-arms mending stirrup leathers, free folk sharpening chipped axes scavenged from fallen thens. It was an army without a single ban, are fit to fly beside the hart and stag, or the direwolf that might soon replace them. Jon felt the unsteady rhythm of that mingled host in every glance he met. Some eyes gleamed with hope, others brimmed with suspicion, and many stared at Ghost as though the beast embodied some new omen neither old gods nor new had foretold. He wondered how many would still stand with him once winter's jaws closed fully and word of his crown reached the south. The thought clung like hoarfrost as he crossed the yard toward Maester Aemon's tower. Inside, warmth coiled from a narrow brazier, though the smell of boiling herbs could not mask the chill of death that lingered in the air. Maester Aemon rested in a chair of worn oak, too frail to rise when Jon entered, yet his cloudy eyes brightened. "I heard the bells," the old man rasped. "They rang for a king at Castle Black." Jon knelt, taking the maester's parchment-thin hands. "A king without a crownsmith or a kingdom yet," he answered softly. "Crowns are less weight than expectations," Aemon said. "See that you do not wear the one and forget the other." Jon recalled Stannis' steel-hard gaze and Davos's quiet faith, recalled the exultant roar that had shattered the dawn hush. He could feel the realm's expectations already, as heavy as chainmail. "I will ride for the villages along the gift before the next moon," he told Aemon. "The small folk must know we do not mean to abandon them. And the lords, we will send ravens," Jon said, though the words tasted hollow. "Ravens could carry parchment, not persuasion. I will ask them to gather at Winterfell come the first true snowfall." Aemon's fingers tightened. "And what of the throne you mean to relinquish? That question must wait until the enemy behind the wall is broken," Jon replied, hearing the iron in his own tone. "If we survive, the realm may judge my right to lead it." Ghost nudged Jon's shoulder, fur bristling. The direwolf's hackles rarely rose without cause. Jon turned as Davos Seaworth strode into the chamber, cloak lined with frost. "Your Grace," Davos began, voice low but urgent. "Stannis bids you join him in the East Practice Yard. You've guests." Jon rose. "Guests? Some few wildling chieftains, and a woman bearing Mance Raider's crown of antler, though she claims another wears it now." Snow creaked beneath armored boots as Jon and Davos reached the practice yard. Tormund Giantsbane waited, his red-gray beard crusted with rime. At his side stood a tall woman swathed in whites and grays, the color of vanishing, her eyes keen as a stooping hawk. Upon her brow rested a crude circlet of severed antlers bound with copper wire. "Crow King," Tormund greeted, voice booming joyously. "Or should I say Iron Crow now?" He laughed, but respect tempered the jest. Jon clasped his wrist. "Tormund," he faced the woman, "you wear Mance's crown." "The Lord of Bones forged it at Mance's bidding," she replied. Her voice held the edge of mountain winds. "I am Val, sister to Dalla, who died bearing Raider's son. The crown passes until the people choose again." Jon nodded. He had glimpsed Val once in passing, wild beauty cut from stone. "What brings you south of the wall?" "Peace," Val said, and though the word was small, it carried like a horn blast. "The people you call wildlings find little refuge in caves and snow. We will fight beside your host, if you offer safe land when the fighting is done." Stannis stepped forward from the ring of watching knights. "And what oath will you swear?" Val looked him over, disdain flickering across her face. "We do not kneel to southern kings, but we will swear by earth and tree and sky, and break bread beneath your roof before the gods." Tormund clapped a hand to his chest. "Give us land to settle, forests for game, hills for goats, and you'll have 10,000 spears." "Spears alone will not hold against Bolton's steel," muttered Ser Godry Faring. "Bolton's steel is still steel," Davos countered quietly. "Spears behind it may turn the tide." Jon raised his voice. "If we share the fight, we share the land. Those who ride with us may live south of the wall under the laws of the north. Houses that refuse will answer to me after the war." Sir Richard Horp scoffed. "You speak as though you are yet a watch commander." "I speak as a man who knows the cost of winter," Jon replied. "Coin and crowns are cold comfort when dead men walk." Stannis' face remained granite, but he inclined his head. "So be it. We march on Winterfell before first snows bar the mountain passes. Your spears will march with us." Val touched 2 fingers to her brow in silent assent. That night, Jon convened council in the Shield Hall, where broken shields of long-dead rangers hung like parched leaves. Melisandre stood at the room's edge, ruby throbbing. Beside her, Lord Seaworth unfurled a tattered map of the north. "Bolton holds Winterfell with 6,000 men," Davos said. "Freys guard the Green Fork crossings. Manderley may rise for you, but his fleet is pinned in ice at White Harbor." "Karstark?" Jon asked. "Ricard Karstark rides with Bolton, but rumor says his men's hearts grow uneasy. Others, Hornwood, Serwyn, will wait until the wind changes." Jon studied the inked hills. "We cannot break Winterfell in open siege. The castle can withstand a year's assault." Stannis tapped the Dreadfort's mark. "Then we lure Bolton out. Word is, he flays any who challenge him. He will not brook a rival king within his domain." Jon's stomach twisted at the memory of flayed skins hung to dry. "He will march, aye, but only if he scents weakness." "Then let him," Stannis said. "We will bait him at the Wolfswood Road. My heavy horse will hold the center. Knights watch and free folk harry his flanks." "Aye, you'd crush him between hammer and anvil," Tormund rumbled. "If your hammer can lift in snow." Stannis' gaze narrowed. "My knights will adapt or die. I do not yield." Melisandre stepped forward, robes whispering. "The flames speak of a battle beneath a broken tower. Fire devours the leech whose name is flayed, and the shadows flee a sword of snow. This is the path the Lord of Light reveals." Stannis' jaw twitched. He believed, but belief chafed like mail. Jon addressed the Red Woman. "Do the flames speak of the cost?" "Victory requires sacrifice," she said, "as day requires night." Jon thought of Ygritte dying in his arms, of Corran Halfhand falling to buy his escape, of Jeor Mormont slain by mutineers in the haunted woods. Sacrifice bled its meaning across too many graves. "The cost must be borne," he said, "but not chosen." In the days that followed, Castle Black became a forge of uneasy alliances. Blacksmiths hammered southern steel into wildling spearheads. Free folk children followed knights' watchhounds along icy corridors. And in the practice yards, sworn brothers sparred against Baratheon knights while Tormund laughed at their stiff forms, teaching them the savagery of hill duels. Jon walked each corner, speaking with every cluster of men. He listened more than he commanded, to Septon Celador's slurred prayers, to Satin's hushed doubts, to the free folk who feared the bite of a southern winter as much as southern scorn. He heard it all, and when words fell short he let Ghost's silent presence lend strength. Slowly, suspicion thawed. One crisp morning, Jon found Samwell Tarly perched atop the library steps, quill scratching parchment. Ravens, Jon guessed.
Sam flushed.
Letters to every lord who ever fought beside your father, he said. I thought they might listen better if the plea comes from the Night's Watch as well. Jon smiled. Well done. He took a seat. Have you written to Old Town?
Samé skvěl post.
Gilly and little Sam travel with the southbound wagons tomorrow. Eamon wishes them safe roads before the first storms. Jon's chest tightened. He had known this farewell was coming. Will you go with them? Sam's voice trembled. Eamon bid me study at the Citadel. He says a Maester King will need a Maester. Jon clasped his shoulder. Then study hard, Sam. When the world is mended, I will have need of wise friends. Tears glimmered in Sam's eyes. And you of me. On the fourth evening after his coronation, Jon climbed the wall alone. Stars salted the sky like shattered crystal, and the aurora danced across the north in curtains of green-white ghostlight. Ghost trotted beside him, crimson eyes bright in the gloom. Over the edge lay the vastness of the haunted forest, a darkness deeper than night. Jon leaned into the icy wind, feeling the weight of unseen faces watching from the trees. The others, the whites, the thousand terrors whispered by old Nan. I once thought the wall would be my world forever, he told Ghost. Now the world presses from every side. Ghost whined, nudging his gloved hand. A king, Jon murmured, voice scattering in the wind. What is a crown against such night? Far below, torches traced paths along the courtyard, tiny flames flickering against the dark. He thought of Melisandre's prophecy, that a sword of star-forged steel would drive back the dark. He thought of Aemon's counsel, of Stannis' trust, of Tormund's brash hope. And he thought of Eddard Stark, kneeling in the God's Wood of Winterfell, whispering words Jon never heard, words that had shaped his life all the same. I will not fail them, Jon said to the night. The wind answered with a sigh like distant wings. A horn's low moan roused Castle Black before the sun. 3 blasts, Ranger returning. Jon hurried to the gate where a ragged column emerged from the dawn gloom. Rangers led by Ed Tollett and Leathers, escorting a gaunt figure cloaked in patched shadows. Bowmen on the ramparts knocked arrows, but Jon raised a hand. The stranger pushed back his hood. Beneath matted hair, his eyes smoldered like blue ice. Mance? Jon breathed, disbelief and relief colliding. Not Mance, corrected Melisandre, appearing beside him. The red woman's smile curved, secretive. Rattleshirt now wears the king beyond the wall's visage, thanks to glamour and fire. Jon stared. The witch had cloaked Rattleshirt in another man's skin so Mance could walk free. But why return now? The not Rattleshirt knelt. I bring tidings from Winterfell. Bolton prepares a feast for northern lords on the full moon. He means to wed Arya Stark. Arya? Jon's world lurched. His little sister, lost since King's Landing, now a pawn in Ramsay's cruelty. He claims it is Arya, the man said. But some whisper she is Jane Poole, your sister's maid, dressed in wolf skin. Rage flared, swift and scalding. Bolton dishonors my house. Stannis appeared, sword belt unbuckled from sleep yet eyes sharp. Then our hammer strikes sooner. We ride before the feast, take Winterfell by storm or die. Die we may, Davos cautioned, if we ride unprepared. Jon's voice rang with steel. We ride. I will not leave my sister or any girl, flayed to Bolton's mercy. A hush fell. It was not the decision of a watch commander debating patrol routes. It was a king's decree. Stannis' stare hardened, but he inclined his head. So be it. We march at dusk. The host formed beyond the wall's shadow. Baratheon knights sheathed in black plate, their chargers snorting in the cold. Shaggy garrons of the free folk, feathered arrows bristling from crude quivers. Rangy direwolf banners sewn that morning from spare black cloaks flapped beside the fiery heart of Lawler. Snow began to fall. Not the gentle flurries of autumn, but winter's first true assault, thick flakes that blanketed mail and muffled hoofbeats. Jon rode at the fore astride a rangy gray destrier. Ghost loped ahead, a pale wraith weaving between horse legs. At his right, Tormund hummed a bawdy song. At his left, Ser Davos adjusted the knot at his cloak's throat with sea-hardened calm. Behind them, horns blared as the host streamed south. By twilight, they reached the King's Road, a ribbon of gray entombed beneath fresh snow. Frozen willows bowed over the drifts like penitents. Jon called a halt at Queenscrown's ruined holdfast, its watchtower scorched black from wildling torches seasons past. Fires sprang up within the crumbling walls, and cooks set pots to boil snowmelt with salt pork. Jon paced the courtyard, boots crunching. Across the flames sat Stannis, studying a leather-wrapped bundle. When Jon approached, the king unrolled it. A plain circlet of dark iron, forged that very afternoon in Castle Black's smithy. No gems glittered, no stag crowned the crest. Only the hammered sigil of a dire wolf, its eyes twin chips of obsidian. A crown for a king who shuns crowns, Stannis said. Take it or not, the realm will still name you. Jon lifted the circlet. The metal seemed miserably heavy for its size. He thought of his father's bronze helm, simple yet sufficient, and eased the iron band onto his brow. The weight settled, cool and unyielding. Better forged of ice, he muttered. Steel endures where ice melts, Stannis countered. Pray your reign proves the same. They set out again before dawn, pressing through knee-deep drifts. Snow blinded the world to gray shapes and ghostly silhouettes. Scouts returned with word of Bolton outriders shadowing the column. Jon ordered watch rangers and free folk hunters to fan east and west, snaring each scout with silent arrows. Stannis watched the bodies dragged beneath evergreens with flinty approval. On the third night, they bivouacked in the Wolfswood's outer fringe. Fires were forbidden. Horses steamed like specters in the dark. Jon walked among the men, murmuring encouragement, sharing hardened oatcakes and flasks of mead. He paused beside the line of free folk who cradled crude shields of bark and iron scraps. A youth no older than Bran stared up, freckles stark against wind-cracked cheeks. King Crow, he whispered. Will the cold things come here? Jon knelt, meeting the boy's fear. Perhaps, but we'll meet them together. The boy nodded, clutching his spear. Jon rose and moved on, the iron circlet pressing cold assurance to his skull. You have chosen, now stand. 2 days' march from Winterfell, scouts returned breathless. Bolton rides, they cried. 5,000 strong, bannered beneath flayed man and pale pink field. Stannis assembled his commanders beneath a canopy of frost-rimmed spruce. Snow gusted around them, whispering across parchment maps. He took the bait, Stannis said. We hold this ridge. Ridge offers poor footing, Tormund snorted. Bolton's horses'll bog in snow. Fight in the birch gully yonder, hem him close. And cede him the high ground? Ser Clayton Suggs demanded. High ground is nothing if his lances can't charge, Davos observed. Giant's Bane has the right of it. Jon studied the terrain. Birch trees clustered thick along a shallow ravine, their limbs sagging with wet snow. The valley floor lay hidden beneath drifts. Infantry in the gully, he decided. Archers on either lip. When Bolton's front plunges, archers loose, then free folk close from both flanks. Stannis nodded. I will lead the center. No, Jon said, surprising even himself. You hold reserves on the ridge. When Bolton's line founders, your heavy horse hammers home. Stannis' stare was iron, but after a breath he inclined his head. That night, Jon walked the camp perimeter. Melisandre awaited beside a smoldering brazier, flame painting her face molten. "You choose battle over sacrifice," she said. "Yet the flames still writhe with your image, sword ablaze, a crown of snow melting in red light." Jon folded his arms. "If your God wills victory, he may grant it without burning children." "Children perish either way," she whispered. "Better their deaths kindle dawn than freeze in darkness." Jon turned away, disturbed by how calmly she spoke of death's tally. Dawn smothered the sky behind a veil of gray when Bolton's banners emerged. Ragged, flayed men fluttering above columns of mail-clad riders, their horses stamping plumes of breath. Ramsay's horn shrilled, a fox's keen cry promising sport. Jon's host lay crouched within the birch ravine. Snow muted every sound except the soft rasp of arrowheads against bowstrings. Ghost lurked at Jon's side, fur dusted white. Tormund hefted an axe as broad as a small shield, lips curved in wolfish anticipation. Jon raised his right hand. Sleet stung his wrist, but he held until Bolton's vanguard funneled into the choke of the gully. Hoofs floundered, mud sucking beneath the powdery crust. Bolton riders shouted. Their formation rippled. Jon dropped his hand. A thunder of strings answered. Hundreds of arrows slashed downward, black streaks against snow. Horses screamed, toppled. Riders tumbled beneath stamping hooves. Another volley followed, then a third. The ravine became a cauldron of blood-flecked snow and churning bodies. Tormund barked a war cry and charged. Free folk surged from the trees, spears thrusting between mailed joints. Night's Watch brothers waited beside them, long swords gleaming. Jon moved with Ghost at his flank, parrying a Bolton axe and driving Longclaw through fur-lined mail. He felt nothing but the cold and the rhythm of survival. Strike, step, guard, breathe. Ramsay's center slammed forward, dogs baying at their heels. Jon glimpsed the bastard's cruel smile beneath a helm wrought like a flayed face. Ramsay spurred straight for him. Their horses collided shoulder to shoulder. Jon's destrier reared. Longclaw met Ramsay's sword in a ringing clash. Sparks spat. Ramsay laughed, a wild, giddy sound. "So the bastard wears a crown now," he jeered. "Shall I flay you silver or gold?" Jon answered with steel. They exchanged blows amid the chaos, hooves sliding in slush. Ghost leapt, teeth sinking into Ramsay's stirrup strap. The bastard kicked free, slice carving Ghost's flank. The dire wolf yelped but twisted, jaws snapping. A horn bellowed from the ridge. Stannis' heavy horse thundered down, crimson banners streaming. Bolton's rear ranks buckled as armored destriers crashed into their flank. The ravine became a maelstrom. Knights trampling infantry, free folk whooping, Bolton men screaming under falling hooves. Jon pressed Ramsay hard, driving him toward a collapsed oak. The bastard's sword caught on a branch. Jon's pommel smashed his helm askew. Ramsay threw a dagger, silver flash, skimming Jon's cheek. Pain flared hot. Jon slashed. Steel bit Ramsay's thigh. The bastard reeled, boots losing purchase. Jon wrested him down, snow swallowing their struggle. They rolled, fists and blades slick with sleet. Ramsay clawed for a hidden dirk. Jon caught his wrist, forced it back until bone cracked. Ramsay shrieked. "Mercy," he wheezed, eyes wide.
"Merci, Cousin Stark."
"I am snow," Jon said, pressing the dirk into Ramsay's throat. "And Mercy died at your kennels." Steel punched flesh. Ramsay's breath hissed, steaming, then stopped. Ghost limped to Jon's side. Jon rose amid the din. Bolton banners toppled. Riders fled toward the woods, pursued by whooping free folk. Stannis' knights rode down stragglers, or accepted surrenders where they could. The battle ended beneath a pall of breath fog and drifting snow. Corpses carpeted the ravine, their blood blackening the drifts. Ravens circled, greedy for feast. Jon surveyed the ruin with hollow eyes. How many spears still stood? How many voices would not greet dusk? He could not yet count. He could only feel the weight settling heavier than iron. Stannis rode up, helm crimson spattered. Winterfell lies open. Bolton dead. Jon said. Freys will scatter when the news reaches the twins. Not if the twins fall first, Stannis replied. But that is a battle for another dawn. Jon touched the wound on his cheek. Blood seeped through numbed fingers. He looked toward Winter. Fell's distant towers, smoke curling faintly against snow clouds. Somewhere within those walls, a girl pretending to be Arya Stark prayed for rescue. Or perhaps the real Arya shivered in the Godswood, awaiting wolves. Either way, Winterfell called. He raised his sword, and the battered host rallied. They marched slow, bearing wounded upon makeshift litters, but they marched. When Winterfell's gray walls loomed, its gates stood open, sentries fled. Free folk spilled ahead, yet Jon ordered restraint. Nu sak, nu hape, nu burni. This was home, even in ashes. In the castle yard, he dismounted. Snow sculptures of flayed men toppled beneath Ghost's growl. Jon strode to the great hall, its doors unbarred. Candles guttered in the draught. The hearth was cold. Upon the dais, the high seat awaited, direwolf carved in ancient oak, gouged by fresh knives but unbroken. Jon approached. Was he worthy to sit where his father once rendered justice? A hush fell over the hall. Sparks sprang. Jon watched until Santagar fainted left, only to be caught by the girl's elbow to his chin and a boot sweep that dumped him flat. She offered a hand. He grinned, bloody-lipped, and took it. Warriors learning each other's steps, forging trust in bruises. A king could not ask for kinder signs. He turned toward the Godswood. Fresh snow muffled every branch. The heart tree's red leaves bled vivid against moonlight. Its face seemed softened, lines gentler. Jon knelt, breath pluming. I will bind them, he whispered. I will mend. The words faded into the hush. Yet he felt heard, as surely as when a raven lands upon a spar's masthead. A presence quiet and enduring. Somewhere a wolf howled and was answered, distant but fierce. At dawn, Maester Tybalt summoned him with urgent news. A raven from the wall. The parchment crackled with frost when Jon unfurled it. The handscript belonged to Dolorous Ed Tollett, now acting Lord Steward. Castle Black besieged. Read the spidery scrawl. Others mass in the haunted forest. Blue eyes like the moon. They move at night, vanish by day. We lost 6 rangers at Icemark, bodies not recovered. Fires burn ice, dragonglass kills, but we are few. Stannis gone south. Send aid. Send fire. Jon's heart hammered. There in the solar's thin light, Winterfell's warmth felt miles away. He read the lines again, slower, as though cadence might change meaning. Blue eyes like the moon. The truth of it hit like Ramsay's dagger. The long night was not rumor. It breathed. He strode onto the battlements. Snow gusted from the east, carrying a scent that prickled memory. Cold so sharp it tasted of iron nails. Ghost followed, crimson prints smudging white. Jon looked north. The sky there seemed darker. Horizon blurred by a veil of cloud? Or was it smoke? No, smoke drifted, changed shape. This darkness was still heavy, as if night itself pooled beyond sight. Stannis had claimed the war lay south. Jon had sworn to hold Winterfell, yet oaths to living men weighed nothing beside vows to the dead who walked. He touched the iron of the rampart, feeling frost bite skin. We ride, he murmured. He found Stannis already armored in the courtyard, issuing orders to pack tents. Before Jon could speak, the king raised a hand. I know, the wall calls. He jerked his chin toward the north tower, where a raven bale still smoldered. They fly fast, these black wings. You go, Jon asked.
No.
You do. Stannis adjusted his gauntlet with sharp tugs. Take whoever you can spare. The North needs a Stark more than a Baratheon just now. A strange gratitude flooded Jon, tempered by dread. We will hold till spring, he said. Hold? Stannis echoed, turning to mount his charger. He paused. And when dawn comes, send me a raven of your terms for Frey surrender. I intend to read it over breakfast at Moat Cailin. Jon almost smiled. Almost. But the moment cracked when a horn sounded from the outer gate. Messengers galloped in, horses lathered. The lead rider sagged, half frozen, but his words cut clear as Valyrian steel. Walkers on the last river, white shadows moving west. The courtyard exploded with shouts. Stannis snapped orders. Tormund roared for axes. Manderly bellowed for his levies. Jon took a breath, tasting snow thick with coming doom, and sought Maester Tybalt. "Quills and ravens," he said. "One message to every lord sworn or no. Rise, ride, flee, whatever keeps them breathing. And one to Samwell Tarly at Old Town. Tell him, hurry. Hurry what, your grace?" The maester asked, quill poised. "To find whatever truth buried in old scrolls might break the night," Jon said. "If it's fire made flesh or songs older than men. Hurry." He clapped Tybalt's shoulder. "And pray to every god you know." They left Winterfell 3 days later. A column of 3,000 riders and twice as many foot, half of them free folk, many limping, all armed with dragonglass daggers freshly napped from crates Tyrion Lannister once sent to the wall as a jest. Black blades gleamed oily in the sunless morning. Jon rode at the head, iron circlet shining frost-dull beneath his hood. Ghost loped near enough for his gait to jolt Jon's stirrup each time he bounded. Behind tramped giants. Mag the mighty's kin, dragging trees stripped for pikes. Manderly's armored cavalry, green seahorses painted on shields. Spearwives in piecemeal mail. Night's Watch archers with black fletching. Northborn boys carrying torches though the sun still hovered behind cloud. Overhead ravens wheeled, crying warnings only the gods could read. On the King's Road they met the first refugees. A farmer driving skinny goats, a weaver with frostbite on 2 fingers, a silent sister leading a cart loaded with corpses wrapped in linen so thin it clung to frozen features. Each told of villages abandoned overnight, of children found stiff in beds, of hoof prints that vanished into drifts as though horses flung themselves into the sky. That night they camped within the ruins of Queenscrown's watchtower. Fires ringed the hill in triple lines. Jon walked between them, stopping where an Umber lad pressed pitch into arrowheads, where a spearwife taught a Karstark boy how to knot a sling, where Maester Tybalt brewed elder tea for coughs. He gave a word here, a nod there, weaving hope as best he could. Above him the sky yawned starless, a velvet void devouring thought. Val found him near midnight watching the wall of black ridgeline far to the north. She spoke low. When Mance sought passage through the wall, he saw only stone. Now he says he sees fire hidden in the ice. Jon tilted his head. Fire. He dreams of it, she said. A river of flame frozen in crystal, waiting to wake. Jon thought of dragon eggs cracked on a pyre, of kings reborn from ash. Dreams may lie, so may maps, yet men die for them. Val's gaze stayed fixed on that dark horizon. Your wall was built to keep us apart. Perhaps fire slumbers within it to mend what ice divided. He did not know how to answer. If the wall must burn to save the living, he said, then let it burn.
Val nodded.
Words of a king. But remember, fire hurts the innocent too. They reached Mole's Town by second dawn. The village had gone silent. Doors hung open, windows shattered. Snow draped roofs like funeral shrouds. Jon dismounted at the well square. Footprints skeined everywhere. Some human, some elongated like goat hooves, some small tracks cloven by claws. Ghosts sniffed, whined, hackle stiff. The boiled leather scent of old fear lingered. They found the first bodies in the brothel cellar, limbs stiff, eyes wide blue, tongues blackened to ice. Jon counted 12, arranged as though seated at invisible tables. One girl clasped a mug frozen solid. No wound marked them, yet life had fled. Davos muttered prayers. Jon ordered kindling piled. They burned the dead where they sat, flames coughing oily smoke. Rangers searching the outer fields discovered a pale hound sniffing at a half-buried corpse. The man wore Night's Watch black, his sword arm gone, ragged at the shoulder. Dragonglass dagger lay inches away, polished and used. They built him pyre too, though no one could name him. The camp's mood soured to silence. Men clutched amulets, carved faces in weirwood chips, muttered to Lawleress flames. Jon read fear in their hunched shoulders, but also resolve. The enemy had shown itself at last. No longer ghost stories whispered in mead halls. Fear harnessed could be drawn like a bow. That evening, ravens fluttered from the dark carrying 2 messages. The first bore Samwell's hand. Old histories mention Horn of Jormungand, dragon-steel blades, children of forest language scratched into dragonglass. Working. The second came from the wall itself. 3 towers lost. Eastwatch holds. Send light. 3 towers lost. Jon stared at the parchment until lines blurred, as though melting in the heat from his gloves. Which towers? He pictured the wall's length. Icemark, Longbarrow, Queensgate, each manned by 20 if that. 3 holes now gaping wide, white tide pouring through. He called a war council under a canvas pavilion lit by braziers. Manderley, Davos, Tormund, Val and Rattleshirt wearing Mance's face crowded inside. Heat condensed on wool and fur collars, dripping like sweat though the air was frigid. "We ride tonight," Jon began. Manderley harumphed. "My mounts need feed. Men need rest. Rest and feed matter nothing to the dead," Jon said. "We strike before dawn, reach Castle Black by midday, if it still stands." He met each eye. "And if it falls, we fight from the wall's shadow to its heights. No retreat south. South means the end of men." Tormund slapped his axe haft. "My kind never fled a storm. Not starting now, Crow King." Val spoke next, voice clear. "I and my sister's son will scale the ice if you need a hand from the north side. We know cracks where ice thins. And fall into the void," Davos warned, but Jon nodded. "Manderley's men will guard the baggage," Jon decided. "But I need your knights on our left flank, Lord Wyman." "You shall have them," Manderley said, jowls trembling. "And my cooks. A man fights harder with pie in belly." Rattleshirt, Mance, cleared his throat. "I will take my best bowmen through the haunted forest. Strike at their rear, if the others have rearguards. If not, we'll prick their ankles." "It is done," Jon said. They dispersed, each to ready their folk. Jon extinguished the brazier last, smothering sparks beneath boot. Smoke curled upward like a broken oath, vanishing into frigid dark. Snow thickened to blinding curtains along the old King's Road. Horses labored. Giants plunged ahead, forging path. Dawn never truly came. The sky merely lightened to pewter before surrendering again to dusk. Around noon they crested a ridge and saw it. Castle Black, the wall, a mountain of blue-white rising into clouds, and at its foot a chaos of movement like insects on drifted sugar. Jon drew rein. Through falling snow he saw shapes assaulting the south gate. Some on pale horses, some on foot, moving disjointed, jerky, their limbs too stiff for living men. They hacked at the wooden barricades where black-clad rangers fought with spears tipped obsidian. "Archers to the fore!" Jon cried. Horns answered. Rangers knocked flaming arrows, free folk bright-fletched shafts. At his signal, a storm of fire lanced the dimness. Arrows fell in rippling waves, setting corpses alight. Some figures crumpled at once, fire racing across their bodies like oil on parchment. Others staggered on, aflame, still hacking. Then shadows among them. Tall armor of frost, eyes blazing cerulean. Raised ice swords, shattered burning shafts mid-air. Flames guttered and died. A shiver ran through the host. "White walkers," Davos breathed. Jon wheeled to Manderley. "Sound the charge." Hoofs churned snow. Giants bellowed. The host surged down the slope, banners streaming. Ghost raced yards ahead, white shape in white world. Jon's war cry tore his throat raw. "For the realm!" The first collision shook him to marrow. Longclaw sheared an armored corpse from collarbone to hip. Blue light flashed inside the wound before dying. He rode through spray of ice crystals. Around him pikes thrust, arrows snapped, obsidian cracked against bone. When a walker turned its gaze on him, cold washed through the world. Frost glazed his beard in a heartbeat. The creature strode, sword humming with chill. Jon spurred, meeting it blade to blade. Valyrian steel rang a note pure and terrible. Cracks spidered across the ice sword. It exploded into powder. The walker's expression did not change, but its body shattered the instant long-claw bit chest. Fragments of blue glass sparked away. A cheer rose, but brief. More walkers appeared like blue will-o-wisps in snow. Mance's archers loosed dragonglass. Some found marks, some splintered. Giants swung tree pikes, crushing wights into shards. But when giants fell, the dead mounted upon them, hacking tendon and marrow. Jon lost count of time, of kills. He knew only the rhythm of steel and bone, obsidian and flesh, the crack of ice, the scream of dying beast. When at last a horn wailed from Castle Black's ramparts. 3 long blasts, hope flared. Jon looked. The gates opened. Black brothers poured forth, wielding torches soaked in wildfire. Green flame engulfed whites, sending dozens toppling. But the flame also licked at watch cloaks, igniting. Jon cut a path to the gate. He glimpsed Dolorous Ed, face blackened with soot, swinging a lantern like a mace. "Took your bloody time," Ed called, then buried his torch in a white's mouth. Behind, Manderly's cavalry punched through, wheels of steel grinding undead into powder. Ghost leapt onto a horse's rump to tear a white off its rider. Snow blew sideways under storm winds summoned by unnatural cold, then reversed as wildfires roared. Jon fought until arms numbed, and still the tide came. Seemed endless. He looked beyond the wall, heart thundering. A line of figures advanced across the white plain, walkers astride dead elk, leading yet more whites. The battle below the wall might be nothing but a skirmish. He reined beside Ed. "We cannot stand on open ground." His voice rasped like gravel. "Pull within the wall. Use the gate's choke." "We tried that," Ed coughed. "Gates near torn through. Hinges scream louder than recruits." "Then we hold the tunnel," Jon said. He signaled horns. Word rippled. Men retreated fighting. Giants lumbered last, plugging gaps. Inside the tunnel, the air froze thick as glass, breath crystallizing mid-exhale. Jon posted archers at slits, set dragonglass pikes across murder holes, stationed giants to push fallen bodies into the ice trench. Still, the dead pressed. Whites poured in crawling heaps, clawing over corpses, ignoring severed limbs. Obsidian slew them, but at cost. Blades shattered. Supply dwindled. Jon called for oil. Barrels rolled into the tunnel, staves creaking. "Fire will melt the wall," warned Tybalt. "Then let it," Jon answered. They smashed barrel heads, dumped pitch. Rangers lit fuses and fell back. Flames roared, a furnace gust racing south. Whites flared like parchment. The tunnel became a hell of orange glare and crawling smoke. Outside, on the south side, snow hissed as heat spilled in waves. Ice groaned overhead. Sheets cracked, avalanches thundered. Jon hauled men out before the arch collapsed, burying tunnel entrance in choking steam. The gate gone. The wall held, but the passage was sealed in fire-frozen rubble. Night settled, shot through with auroras rippling blood-red and emerald over the frozen battlefield. Whites lay charred in drifts. Walkers withdrew into darkness, unhurried, as though time itself bowed to them. Jon surveyed the ruin. Hundreds of good men dead, maybe thousands of whites. But the wall still stood, maimed, scarred, smoking, but upright. He staggered to an overturned cart, braced himself. Snowflakes hissed on smoldering wood. Davos approached, helmet tucked beneath arm, eyes abraded crimson by smoke. "They'll return," he said. Jon whispered. "But we learn." Davos placed something in Jon's hand, a shard of walker blade, still cold enough to sear skin. "Ice may cut, but fire shapes." Jon closed fingers around the shard. He thought of Sam in Old Town, of Val's hinted river of frozen flame, of dragonsteel buried in snowfields. He thought of the crown still waiting at Winterfell, frost-rimmed and silent. Duty must outlive kings, he realized. Duty must forge kings anew each dawn. He lifted his eyes north. Darkness waited. But somewhere within that darkness he felt a beat like a distant drum, steady as a heart, vast as the world. Not an end, only the gathering of breath. "We will be ready," he said, voice steady, though his bones quaked with cold and awe. "Next time, we meet them beneath the thunder of dragons." Ghost howled, a shivering note that cut through wind and ruin alike. Men nearby lifted torches high. Flames wavered but did not die. Night listened, and for a moment, the wind held still, as if considering what answer it might bring.